Look at me learning Zoom. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here. This is our April 2021 Jupyter Community Call. Yay! I know, it's very, very exciting business. They just keep going every month. It's amazing. I'm Isabella. I'm going to be the host today. I'm actually a designer for anyone who doesn't know, so I will probably give you different feedback than you might hear from the rest of the community. Just be aware. And for anyone who hasn't been here before or who doesn't know, Jupyter Community Calls are a place, to gather cross community, celebrate what people are doing, just generally be excited. I compare it to like a show and tell a lot. Like, let's just talk about these different things and tell us what you're thinking about. So that's the purpose here. There are two things. I'm gonna do no, I'm not gonna do my little screen share. That's good. To remind people, just so you know, first, community calls are recorded. Everyone here heard me say that, but just so people know. And second, I like to remind people that this is a Jupyter event and a Jupyter community gathering, and so we are held to the Jupyter Code of Conduct, which can be found at any time at jupyter.org/conduct. This includes me, by the way. If anything happens, just know that you can use that as you see fit. And if you haven't been here before also, I just want to say what we're going to do. I've linked the agenda in the chat a few times, so I will link it once more, just in case there was anyone while I was talking I didn't notice come in. What we're going to do is kind of go down this list. People have signed up ahead and said, hey, I want to share this thing, and so we're just going to let them share, have some discussion. Feel free to hop in whenever, or just be quiet and listen. All's good. So that's it for me. Any questions, comments? If anyone wants to introduce themselves because they're new, though you absolutely don't have to, up to you. I'll give you a few seconds of quiet to think about this.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, hello.
Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Claudia, and I'm the PM for the Jupyter project in Visual Studio Code at Microsoft. I came with one of my great developers, Joyce. We saw this and we were very, very interested to see what it was all about, what you guys would be doing. Just wanted to come say hello.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Welcome.
No, thank you for setting it up. We're excited to see what you guys chat about.
Always depends on the month. Okay, I will be quiet for a few seconds again if anybody else has stuff. Okay, I will leave that be then. Our first thing on the list then is that we're going to go to those aforementioned short reports. I think Loic is the first one I have, so whenever you're ready, if I didn't even see. Are you here? Okay, good.
I'm good. Just as a reminder, I'm working as a software engineer at the European Synchrotron, and we are developing visualization tools for HDF5 files, which are the format of the file of the data that is acquired at the European Synchrotron right now. And among the tools that we are developing is a web viewer called H5 Web that I presented 2 months ago, I believe, to the Jupyter community call and the Jupyter extension, the Jupyter Lab extension. And I just wanted to give a quick announcement. I'm going to share my screen, perhaps it will be. Just going to give you a quick announcement that we have now released a new version of the extension, if I can find the right page, which is this one. We have now released a new version of the extension with a small binder demo that you can run and launch by yourself now. So I'm going to go here in the binder demo. So here I launched the binder demo from the badge. I've just done it in advance to avoid waiting for it. And basically, we have now an example notebook where we can create an HDF5 file. And if you remember what I presented last time, I presented the fact that we can double click on an HDF5 file to open this file and explore the groups and the data sets that are inside this HDF5 file. And with this new version of the extension, we are now bringing this HDF5 visualization and exploration to the notebook with this small H5 web widget here. So I can run this cell, and then I have exactly the same thing inside the notebook that I can use to visualize data, explore the file, inspect the metadata, and so on and so forth. And because we are working at the European synchrotron, we are interested in supporting Nexus files, which are a subset of HDF5. It's just a HDF5 file with some convention, some on the metadata, so that, for example, you have a default plot when selecting a group and things like that. And so in this example notebook, we also have creation of a Nexus file and visualization with H5 web as well. So yeah, it works quite nicely. You're welcome to try the Binder demo if this is something that interested you, and to install the extension as well. It is compatible Jupyter Lab 2. Hopefully it should be soon on Jupyter Lab 3. I think it works, but it's not officially supported yet. Well, yeah, you're welcome to try and give us any feedback that you want on this, if this is the kind of thing that interested you. Yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to share.
Yeah. Congrats on the release and all that stuff happening. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, and thanks for the follow-up too. So cool. Any other comments? Okay.
I always like to ask a question if no one else does. So, you know, like backend wise, in terms of like filtering and presenting the data, what are you using to do that? Like, you know, accessing the file to visualize the data. How do you do that? What libraries do you use in the backend?
In the backend, we use, if you remember, I talked about another extension which is developed by Max, which is Jupyter Lab HDF5. And in Jupyter Lab HDF5, you have a front end that displays the data and a backend part to access the data and the metadata. And in our case, then we use the backend of Max, and I am doing some PR to extend it to implement the features that we need in the backend. And we try to have, as I discussed a few times at other calls, a lazy approach on this, because HDF5 file can be quite huge if you put a lot of data and metadata inside. And so we try to fetch metadata when requested. Same for the data, fetch only the slice that is displayed, and try to cache the data so that it's a bit more fluid, but without needing to fetch all the data at once. So I hope I answered your question.
I also got a question actually. So a couple of years ago, I mean, before the end of the world and COVID and everything, I got in touch with folks from the HDF5 group, and they were working on a web app, like sort of along the same lines, but outside of Jupyter. Have you been in touch at all with these folks, or is it something that's completely independent?
We started as an independent project, and basically they got in touch a few months ago with us because they wanted to, they are more involved with NASA for the HDF5 data treatment, and they wanted to extend what we are doing in H5 Web to geospatial data, basically. And so they got a grant, I think, or they will get a grant to do some development in H5 Web. So we are indeed in contact with the HDF group.
Would you be interested in getting in touch with us? Also, we worked on a bit on table display widgets in Jupyter using the Lumino table.
Lumino data grid?
Yeah, the Lumino data grid with iPad data grid and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I don't know if this is what you're using in there.
We are using a React project because I didn't talk about this, but all the application is a React application. And we are using a project that is called React Visualize Window or something like this for the matrix visualization that I didn't show. I only show you the line vis and the heat map vis, but we also have a matrix visualization where you have like a data grid. And we are using this project that it's as I said, it's a bit of a lazy approach. You want to load only the data that you are displaying, and I don't know how you think this can be implemented with Jupyter you mean in the Lumino data grid, or?
Well, I think it's definitely possible, but it's really not the same approach. But yeah, I'd be interested in getting in touch. And we're not so far from each other either, so maybe cool to talk. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be interested to discuss with you. There's no problem.
Yeah, awesome. Let's touch base after then. Well, more people are coming now.
Yeah, I was seeing those numbers go up again. And I was like, wow. So welcome to anyone who joined since I last said that. Welcome. And thank you. I'm glad that that sparked some good discussion. I hope that continues. And the one thing I wanted to say too, just in terms of short reports, I know I've said it before, but I'm saying it again. If anyone has interest in working like on running community calls like these, it'd probably be good if someone besides me knows where things are, basically. And so that's always an open call. You don't have to do it alone. I'll help you out. I'm not planning on abandoning this at all, but I think it would be nice if someone else knew, and maybe we can also get some different time zones met better, because one of the reasons I haven't moved to certain time zones is I don't know if I'd be a good host at 1 a.m. for some prime European time stuff. So, but I would attend if someone wanted. So yeah, open call, always get in contact with me however you see fit. I can, yeah, I'll be on the agenda so you can see GitHub if that helps. Yeah. Anyone else have last minute, short reports, announcements, anything like that?
Yes,
okay.
Maybe I can show a demo of an NB term, which is a new,
Yeah, no, I saw you on the agenda. We are getting there.
Okay.
Yeah. I took the liberty to add you in the after Jeremy, David, because you were joining and you didn't have the link to the agenda quite yet.
No problem. Okay, thanks.
Oh, but yes, welcome. No, absolutely. I'm excited to see that. Yes, I see you on the list, so we're getting there. But any other quick announcements before we go into full demo land? Exciting. Okay, I will take the moderate silence as a confirmation to proceed. And yeah, we're going to the main agenda now. So these are going to be our kind of longer demos and discussions, and we're still doing good on time. I think the first person I have on here is Gonzalo, actually. Are you ready to present? Maybe?
Almost. I need like 2 minutes.
Do you want someone else to go before you? Or?
If Jeremy could go first, that would be great if you can do that. And I can go after.
I'm fine with
Thanks.
that. Sorry to catch you off guard. Yeah, okay. That sounds good to me. I can't wait to see it. Jeremy, are you ready?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay, so let me see. All right. So so yeah, I'm Jeremy, and currently working on Constack and on a lot of Jupyter stuff. And one thing that we started to work on like a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it would deserve like a little bit of demo and a bit more of, show and tell, is a project called Jupyter Lite. And so the idea of this project is to kind of reboot the previous attempts at having like a full in-browser Jupyter that were like started, for example, in by Nick with Jive, and there was also another one with a P5 notebook to have something more focused on P5.js. But here, clearly, the idea is to have something way more generic and using the latest Jupyter Lab components, and well, something we can build on in the future and in the long term. So I think the best would be to show you a demo. So what you can do is you can also try it on your own if you want. But if you go to the docs, so again, like I've wrote it in the notes, but many thanks to Nick for helping on this, because this is like really nice. Like we already like reached like a really cool state, and as you can see, like we have like docs, and the best of this is that you can actually launch it from here. So it puts in seconds, and you get a Jupyter Lab in your browser. So everything is in the browser, and here we have like a couple of files. But if you try it yourself, you probably have nothing. So those are like notebooks stored in local storage. So first, maybe I can show you this kind of thing. So you can change the themes, and it supports reloading the page. So this is also saved in your browser, like in local storage. So you can keep your settings and yeah, your notebooks. So you can create new ones if you want, or even like new files, and they show up here. And yeah, so maybe we can do like a quick demo of like the kernels that have been implemented so far. So the first one is one based on JavaScript that runs in an iframe, and you can write JavaScript. It's very basic, doesn't do much except like the simple things, but it's all using lab components, so you can do also fancy things like this. We also have something a bit more advanced, so it's like JavaScript is the same as what we saw, but plus the P5 library that is preloaded, so you can do more visual stuff, like for example here, this is taken from an example of the P5.js documentation. So you can create a particle system. You can clearly define like what you're doing here, because notebooks like Markdown mixed with code. It's really really handy. And then at the end you can show your thing. So this is also something you can do at the moment. And by the way, if you have any question, feel free to interrupt. And also Nick, if you want to add some stuff, don't hesitate. So since it's everything based on lab, you can also do this if you want, and move it around. Okay, it's a bit lagging now, but yeah, you got the idea. But another one, there is a Python kernel using a project called Pyodide. So the folks at Pyodide, which was started by Mozilla, they pretty much compiled Python to WebAssembly, and we're using this here. So you can run Python in your web browser. So here you get this, the Zen of Python. And in our case, we add like a very small display module to be able to display some basic things like HTML, Markdown, LaTeX, and also matplotlib. So you get the static PNGs, you can update it, and we run the cell. Pandas data frame takes a little while to load because it's a bit heavy. But normally we should be able to see the data frame. Yeah. The cool thing is that you can also display it one more time. And even the network request combined with JSON, you get a nice JSON Explorer like this using so it's pretty much all reusing the lab MIME renders and the lab components. So you get a lot of stuff for free, which is cool. And SymPy comes from Pyodide, so it's also included by default. It takes a little while to load, but they have a very handy function to print things in a notebook, so it renders nicely like this. Yeah, and you see that we have this dot here. It means that you can actually access it from here. So we closed the P5 notebook, but you can actually reopen it if you want. You can navigate from here. And you can also like do this kind of things where you shut down everything. Yeah. But you also have access to Jupyter Lab Classic. So this is also coming by default, like if you access it from the docs. And yeah, so you can also run it from here if you prefer. So again, everything in a web browser. Okay. So I had some notes here. Yeah, in Markdown, but better if we open them as Markdown like this. So yeah, it's pretty much like a very lightweight Jupyter frontend running in a browser. It's not really light because Python is quite heavy at the moment, but still you don't need a server or anything like this, and it boots in seconds, so that's quite nice. Yeah, no server, no command line, no dependency management. So for now, we deployed to read the docs actually. So this is like really next to the docs, but normally you should be able to also access it on Vercel, which is another way to host static files, static websites. And yeah, so use cases like for education, it's pretty useful if you can open a notebook very quickly. There are a lot of ideas and plans for the future. So for example, yeah, building your own distribution if you want. And here Nick did a really nice diagram. So I think at some point we might be able to reach this kind of thing. So where you can actually create your own distribution of this and deploy it yourself. Yeah, and then we can start reusing those components. So they haven't been published yet, but soon. And then you can reuse them in other lab-based frontend. For example, in Voila, there's an open pull request to start having a Jupyter Lab-based application. The same thing for the Quest project and other lab-based applications. Yeah. So yeah, not going to go. Yeah, just to give you an idea. So here you have, since everything is running in the browser, what happens is that the fetch and the WebSockets, so the fetch method and the WebSocket are kind of patched, and that way we can intercept like the traffic that goes from lab to the normal Jupyter server. But since there is no Jupyter server, there is something that kind of implements it in a browser. And this whole server part is actually a Lumino application, which means that everything else is a plugin. So the contents manager, sessions kernel, and all of this, including the kernels themselves, are actual Jupyter Lab plugins. So Lumino plugins, to be more precise. But that means that later, when we have like support for the pre-built or federated extensions, we can start having like a really nice way to just swap some components. So if you don't want like your notebooks to be stored in local storage always, you can maybe provide a different contents manager. Or if you want another kernel, you can maybe just add it as a normal extension alongside the others. And yeah. Up next, if we update to the alpha packages for 3.1, we're probably going to get some nice improvement to the plugins so we can use them a bit better, and maybe even RTC for free. And in that case, that would mean that people would just go to a link and they will be able to edit notebooks together. So maybe that would be like one of the fastest way to try RTC. Let's see. Yeah, and for the Python-based kernel, hopefully we can get some support for IPyWidgets, and that means again like using a lot of things that have been done already in IPyWidgets world to get all of these libraries to work. Should be possible, but we haven't started to work on that yet. There's an open issue, even a PR for federated extensions, and all of this, of course, to be able to reuse a lot of third-party extensions that already exist. And yeah, and then maybe like other ideas, like for example, this website, it's called GitHub 1 second, and it gives you like a VS Code in 1 second, pretty much, and you can use it to explore repos on GitHub. And it would be really cool if we could have something like this, but using like this kind of Jupyter tools instead, because then you can maybe even run kernels directly by just going on GitHub, hitting this URL, and then you're good to go. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, I think. Yeah, and yeah, if you want to start already looking into that or even help, there is a contributing section here, starting to have the API for all of these packages. And of course, more to come. Yeah, thanks.
Hey, Jeremy, that was awesome. I don't have anything more to say beyond that, but I was curious if you could show this micro pip thing. Nick was talking to me about it. How do you like bring in some other packages and stuff like that?
Yeah, so let me see if I can do it live actually. So if you go to, yeah, maybe if you open a new notebook, I think you should be able to do something like this, import micropip, and then you do micropip. I think it's called install.
Gotta wait.
And yeah, that's true. Yeah, so that's done. And I was trying actually tritlets already, and it seems to be working. So that would be like one of the things we need to do to have for iPad widgets. And you probably can then do something like this. So tritlets, import Unicode. Yeah, or you can even do something like.
That's super cool. Thank you.
Well, yeah, you got the idea. I think you, as long as it's pure, a pure Python wheel, it shouldn't be a problem. And for the rest, maybe the package is already, shipped with Pyodide. And if it is not, then maybe there's a way to add it to the Pyodide distribution, or like, to be able to install it. Yeah. But Pyodide folks, they have done like a really great job, and they released a new version recently, the 0.17, and this is the one that we're using. So just a couple of days ago. They also updated the docs and all of this stuff. So yeah, really, it wouldn't be possible without this, of course. So big thanks to them.
That's fantastic. And you've also got a lot of really positive comments in the chat, in case, hoping you saw those. People are very excited. Can I? Oh, no, go ahead.
There was a question by Nick about widgets. And so indeed, like, you can't use, sockets or do things like this in the browser, right? But one idea that we got was to build a WebAssembly package for Zeus Python. But instead of using Zeus X server provider, which uses ZMQ for communication, we would provide another specialization of that base class, which would make API calls to JavaScript, so that as a byproduct, you would get widget support and even potentially debugging, just like in other Zeus-based kernels.
Yeah, that's a great vision. I mean, we just need a real build chain. Pyodide currently builds everything in one tree. Yeah. And so if you bump a new Python, it's a 5-hour build. So getting that on a Conda with WASM as a target, and you got the wolf on it, and I know it's all good. But that's
we're on it. you exactly know where we're going with this.
I know it because I told you 4 months ago that that's what we need to do. Anyhow, but
but the thing, like, you see everything like 3 or 4 steps in advance. So how can we even,
Whatever. Everyone's getting there. It's fine. The really exciting things I see on this, this is a thing that will finally bridge Jupyter for a lot more use cases. So, for example, I forgot the name of it, and the name and the page is all in French, but basically they're already using Pyodide in they're already using that in French primary education, and so the closer we can get to a developer writes something and it's going to run on some hot rod rig, you know, whatever in the cloud with whatever, you know, that's cool. If they don't have to do anything special and it also runs on a statically hostable website running on some school administrator's IIS, all they have to do is make sure that WebAssembly is served with the correct header, which it isn't on IIS. You know, then they can have interactive computing that's entirely powered by their bring your own device solution. They don't have to deploy Kubernetes. They don't even have to deploy a specific magic version of Ubuntu for the littlest Jupyter hub. They can have all these things. The only thing we'd need to be able to do is bridge Content Manager to the learning management systems. So if, you know, you get an assignment created in your whatever they're using, I'm sure it's open source because France is good about that. You know, you pop into it and there it is, and it's loaded, and all those CDN assets are all hosted from your server, so you're not breaking GDPR and all that. This also works really good for journalists, right? Right now, it is a productionizing step to turn a notebooks-based story into something that you can actually host, and that drives people to super expensive things that journalists can't afford, like Tableau and, you know, other proprietary solutions. We got to get on that, you know, and give the readers of important data-driven stories not just the data and not just the visualization, but the ability to challenge the assertions by the fourth estate about what the data says. So these things are, I mean, everybody hates the internet, and I hate JavaScript and everything like that, right? But this is really enabling technology at a whole other scale. The next billion users.
Regarding the integration with LMS, there is already something in this project called Capital with a Y and an E in the end, because in French, capital has an E. And they do exactly what you were describing with respect to LMS integration of Periodide. So we're going to work with them on, you know, switching to Jupyter Lite soon, hopefully. And yeah, so that's the plan. And Conda Forge is definitely like the plan for WASM building. And Wolf is in the corner. No, I can see him. He's like lurking in the corner, so he can tell more about that.
Awesome. I don't want to cut off all discussion, but I do want to get to some of the other people on our list. I'm glad that was so exciting though, and I'm glad that I am really interested to see what happens with that. So thank you so much for sharing. Is that good? This is your last words about this one. Okay, Gonzalo, are you ready now? Perhaps?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, wonderful. Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. So, yeah, let me just share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I will be using HackMD as my slide deck today. So I just wanted to give a little intro if you're not familiar with the workflow for internationalization and what has been happening for the past few months. So I'm Gonzalo, I work at QuantSite and I work for the Jupyter ecosystem and other stuff. So today, so a couple of, like a month ago or something, I received an email saying what you see on the screen here, like there is a delay in the creation of language packs with Jupyter Labs as a base for our products. And we're interested in using this for Chinese and Japanese. How can we help? And we're interested in contributing. So at that moment, I was just swamped with work, so I ignored it. But last week, I think another person from the company that this person wrote from was in the meeting, and it was like a good time to undust all the work that went into this. And I wanted to share a little bit so that if other people are interested in helping, like it would be it would be awesome. So after getting that feedback, so basically what's the current state of language packs? So this work was finished like 7 months ago, and at that moment there was an initial batch of strings that needed translation, and we were using Crowdin as the service to crowdsource all the translation work. And this is the current state for the latest version of Jupyter Lab, that is 3.0.14, I believe. So I updated the strings last week, and now we have also Spanish and Chinese for 100 completion. And those are the rest of the 10 languages. First, the top 10 languages that are almost ready also to be released. So I am committing myself to do this actual release of these packs tonight. Fingers crossed. So that people can actually start using them if they're interested, and also help us find any issues with the workflow or with the translations. On the other side, so this was the first attempt to try to get this this workflow on the public. So first, this is the community call. So I will give a very, very brief overview of how can you internationalize your extension so that it can be then localized by your.
Real quick, maybe could you give a little context for the work before you do that, in case people don't know about the project you've been working on? Yeah, thank you.
What project?
Yeah.
Sorry. What do you mean?
No, I mean, like, I don't know, like, I don't know if you said overall, like, we're trying to translate Jupyter Lab. And I just wanted to make sure people know that, since we have some different people.
Yeah, sorry, that went full steam ahead. So
no,
yeah, thanks Isabella. So we're trying to translate Jupyter Lab, and that work started 7 months ago prior to the release of the 3 series. It was a lot of work, carried mostly by yours truly, with the help of others, of course. But in that process, well, it was a huge amount of work trying to get the whole code base to move. But now we want to go further, and we want extension developers to join the ride and also localize their extensions, so that any extension that you install is also localized, and you don't get this mixed match of English and whatever you are using your interface. So I will post a link to a talk I gave on JupyterConf last year that explains the process in depth. So if you want to learn more how it was and how it works, you are more than welcome to see it. I will post it on the HackMD in a minute after this diatribe is done. So having said that, so now we're in the state where most of the Jupyter Lab core for the current available release is translated, and we started adding extensions to the mix. So these language packs will contain translations for the core and extensions that are being added periodically to the language packs. So the idea is to have a centralized point where people just install their thing. When the plugin management from within the interface of Jupyter Lab is finally released and tuned, then you will be able to install this right away from the interface and just refresh and get your things. Or if you want to use the terminal in Jupyter Lab, you could also do that, like pip install language pack, blah blah blah. All more on the resources I will leave below, so that you can install things and start testing them right away. So to go back, so Spanish and Chinese will be released tonight. That's a commitment. And please, if you want to know more information on how the whole process is working, you are welcome to attend the JLab Dev meeting taking place tomorrow. Also more information on the resources and links, all that. So basically, how can you translate your extension? If you're an extension author and you want to you want to internationalize it so that other people can localize the content. So the best way to do that is to look at an example. So that's something I'm linking. This is some work that Jessica Barr did for the Jupyter Lab Git extension. So of course, there should be documentation on how to do this, but I find the documentation is still not there. But looking at this example will make your life as easy as possible, I think. So just go to this PR, look at what was done and how things are made to localize strings. it can be summarized in basically you either import a translation bundle from the Jupyter Lab Translate package, and then you propagate that anywhere in your code base, either through props or in the constructor of classes or as parameters in the functions, and then you use the trans method with the available methods that you can use to translate. So more information of this you can find on the video on what this means, but basically this is one-to-one translation. So this is the basic idea. Get your translation bundle and use it. So just go over this PR, take a look how it goes, and then when you are done with your PR and it's merged, then you can go to the language packs repository, and you can open the repository map, and you can basically add the work that you did. So in this case, you just add the package, the current version tag, if there is one already published with the content. If you're already working only on master, so you can put master that so that we can fetch the content from master. And that way we can update all the strings in crowding while a release is available. And how it's done is basically when you update that repository map, you will see that catalog with all the strings will get extracted, and you will be able to start translating. Well, you or people around the world that are helping with the translations can start translating all the strings for the Jupyter Lab Git project. As more strings are available, well, you will have more, what's the word? You will, oh, come on. What do you mean? So as more strings are translated, they will be available within the interface in the memory bank. So it will, as more people collaborate, you will have more suggestions on what's a good translation for something. You will see the interface here. You get some ideas, you get to do some comments because we make mistakes, and you might say like, this string doesn't make any sense in English. So, or there's a missing space or extra space or something is not really working. And with that information, well, our reviewers or the people working with all this project can like fix things or help us train these fixes where they are required. So that's like a very succinct, I hope, and hopefully clear explanation of what you can do to start to get your extension going for translations. And you can follow these resources here. They are more or less in the order of the things that you need to do. And sure, I'm happy to take questions and rants from why it took so long.
Yay! I'm so happy to see this happening because I know we were looking for it for accessibility reasons too. So I'm excited.
So all the French people in this call, because there are many, what's going on, man? You're lagging behind. Come on.
Well, you speak
David.
French. Gonzalo, you.
Sylvain, vas-y.
All right.
Qu'est-ce que c'est ce bordel?
Yeah, I feel bad. I really do. So first, this is great. I just have one technical question about your presentation. So this centralized repository for the language pack, like there seems to be a good reason for it to be centralized because you can reuse string translation. Does it have to be, or?
It doesn't have to be, but it's the main use case that we wanted first to support because it makes life easy for everyone. Mm-hmm. So as an extension developer, you need to just update your code and come to this place, and then everything should be ready. But you should be able to provide either translations per package for a specific language, or you could basically mirror this workflow for internal use if you wanted to provide something similar for let's say closed source extensions or dedicated work that you still don't want to publish. So it doesn't have to be like this. It just makes it so much easier for the team to maintain it if we do it like this. So that was the main reason.
Yeah, I totally see that. I was just asking whether, I could imagine people wanting to have a translation but not putting this into a centralized place. Yeah. So
yeah, so we support both. So you right now can install a language pack and it will work, or you could provide a single local, let's say, translation for a specific package in a specific language. And in theory, you could install that, and depending on which version is more up to date, we will use that versus the one on the centralized. I'm putting quotes here because we're focusing on this use case right now. The other use case might be a little broken right now. Just so, but if you want to learn more about that, just ping me and I'll probably.
Awesome. No, I don't think I have the use case. I was just asking whether there was like an intrinsic reason for it to be centralized. It's so that your answer is very satisfactory. Yeah.
It's because it makes life easy.
Yeah.
That's the reason. And we're lazy. We're coders, so we like easy things or things that make our life easy. So yeah, so if you can join tomorrow, we're going to look at the other side of how does this whole thing work and ideas of how to make it even easier for us. So like every time there is a new release for a package that is already tracked on the repository, we can have a bot that will create a PR that updates things for us and make it even easier. That's my plan at some point, but I need help. So anyone willing to help and work with GitHub Actions and bots and stuff, welcome to join or ping me or all that.
I don't have a question, but thank you for championing this. This is a big deal, and it just exposes these tools to such a wider user base. So well done. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Also waiting for that Farsi translation, but yeah, no pressure.
It's not going to be me.
Wonderful. I do want to check too, since I know we only have a few minutes left. David, I don't know how long or short your share is. I'm happy to have you go now, but I don't know if you are feeling pressed for time. If
it can be very short.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah, I didn't prepare, but I can make a very small demo if you want.
Sure. And just so anyone knows too, if you have to go in the middle because you have other calls, that's okay. So, but hopefully we'll make it. So yeah, take it away, David. Thank you. Yeah,
so I'm David and I work at Quantstack, and I recently developed a small tool called NBTerm, which is a notebook client for the terminal. So we published a blog post yesterday here, and the GitHub repository is here. So NBTerm is very simple. You can launch it like that, and it creates a brand new notebook, and you can enter some code. And execute it. And you can copy cells, and it works as you would expect to work in a regular notebook client. So it's a very new project. It's very small, very lightweight, and there are still many things to implement, but people seem to be very interested in it. So I will try to work on it more. And let me show maybe a more interesting notebook. So this one, for example, shows queuing some cell executions. So that works too. First one executed, second one is being executed right now. We have also a markdown cell here. And yeah. So it's using Rich for the rendering and Prompt Toolkit for the layout. And a brand new Jupyter stack, very lightweight Jupyter stack that I'm working on as well. That's it for me.
That's pretty cool. What's my
awesome.
only question would be like, what's on the pipeline? What's next for this? This is awesome.
Everything. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things actually. If you look at, for example, when you go in edit mode, tab doesn't work, auto completion doesn't work. almost everything has to be implemented. This is basically just a work of a proof of concept that a kernel can be run with something that basically already works. But I received already a lot of feature requests, so I will work on that.
That's pretty cool.
Thanks.
If it's not too long of a question where I'm going to keep you, what was your inspiration for this? It's so interesting.
Just finding out that it doesn't exist. We have IPython, but it's a console, and we don't have a notebook in the terminal. And because I'm a contributor of other packages in the Jupyter ecosystem, I have basically I can do it, so I did it.
That's awesome.
I mean, I started it started as a toy project, and as I was working on it, I realized that it was not that complicated. So yeah.
Well, that's great. That's always a nice surprise when you're like, wow, that went easier than I expected.
This might be a dumb question, but does it work with SSH?
So I didn't try all that. I know, yeah, that it's going to be a big use case. Right now, for example, you could work on a remote kernel by just passing the connection file, because it has the TCP sockets in it. So you could work remotely. I've not tried, but it should work out of the box already. But we need, yeah, to find SSH is probably, yeah, something different. So I need to look into that.
Like in the good old days when we were piping kernel reports for IPython. I mean, I think we should still be able to do this. It's exactly the same as a local kernel. But
does it support inspect? How are you handling this?
Not yet. Yeah.
Okay, so my great wish and dream and desire for this is that it speaks Jupyter Lab workspace JSON, and it has some of those concepts that you could enable, and you would be able to abuse those kinds of things. So, you know, just getting to the notebook is really good, but even on Jupyter Lab itself, we've got a use case for having a server managed client that manages, you know, this state. Interact has one that's written in Node.js, doesn't integrate very well with the rest of the stack. It needs a whole lot of tooling. If something like this could represent the state of a workspace with potentially multiple notebooks, with file editors, with sidebars that implement traditional Jupyter features, you know, that would, yeah, exactly, Lumina on the terminal, you're damn right, which is Qt in the browser, right? But it doesn't even have to be that. It's more the JSON specs, right? It's not, it's commands, which we can get onto a JSON spec, and workspace, which we can get onto a JSON spec. That would benefit a lot of people, rather than there being like, oh, you just use tmux and forget about it, you know? Like, that's not a thing that we can offer to everybody, you know?
Yeah, that sounds very good. Yeah, I need to educate myself with all that, but yeah, that's there's a lot of potential directions for improvements. Also, it doesn't use a server. That's a big difference, but because it connects directly to the kernel through sockets. But yeah, there are some differences like that.
But it's on the async IO loop, or no?
Yes, it's pure async IO. Yeah.
Okay, then it can, well, there's pure and there's pure, but that means that it could be landed inside of a server. You know, keep your stuff clean, but it could land inside of a server, so that you could offer this.
Yeah,
as
exactly,
for
sure. Yeah.
So Darian, etc. This just is that headless client that we were talking about, right? And the terminal already understands how to do windowing really good, you know. And of course, the typography and accessibility of terminal applications is generally better than web stuff. So we'd be forward a lot if we could roll this out
Yeah,
in
sounds
something
good.
easy
Yeah.
to see.
Oh, I didn't
Feel
know
free
that
to.
about accessibility. Why is
Yep.
it better if you start tiling windows in the in the terminal for accessibility?
Because Emacs has had that, and Vim has had that for a really long time. It's just been, it's a lot easier to use the terminal in these applications.
Yeah. I don't know if you're looking for more explanation there, but I think, yeah, it's true. It's been a priority longer, and handling, like, I think kind of the linear nature of it. That was fantastic. Any last comments? I know we're slightly over, so thank you for lingering, anyone who can.
I think it's always a great opportunity to see what other people are doing. I think the nice I saw a nice thing with Jupyter Lite and the terminal thing, and I'm always grateful to come here and to present and to see what other presents. So thank you again.
No, this was wonderful. Lots of surprise shares that made me happy to see. And if there is nothing else, I can wrap up, but I will give you a few more seconds of silence to consider that. Okay. Also, yes, thank you, Zach. I'm surprised to have you here, but good surprise for sure. I'm happy to be running these. Quick wrap up. Once again, I'm really happy to have everyone here. Thanks for taking the time to do this and show interest in the community and show off everyone's really cool work. I linked already in the chat just so you have it. If you want to give feedback for any reason, the Google form is there. I actually have used it to read, like, people are like, oh, we should talk about this, and try and give people prompts. So I do read those. And the next community call in a month, May 25th, Tuesday, right now at the same time. I also linked the agenda for that, so you can sign up whenever. And that also has all the like time zone changes in that document. So hopefully that's helpful, and hopefully this is a slightly better time for Europe. That's why I moved it up. So yay! That's good to me. Any final comments?
In fact, where is the community call announced? Because I think I missed the one from last month.
Right. There's a few places it's announced. One of the ones that's probably the easiest to follow is there is a Discourse post, a Jupyter Discourse that has a wiki on top. So I update that every month. That's why I'm looking for it, because then you'll always have like the up-to-date time and agenda. I also, though, do have it on, I think, Twitter, and what else here? There's that link for you. And I can't remember what else I post. I know I post on like the Jupyter Hub Team Compass, because they do meeting stuff there. And yeah, but Discourse is probably the easiest place to follow because you don't have to keep looking for new posts. It's always the same one at the top. So yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I also just dropped a link to the community calendar, so you can add it right to your Google Calendar if you have that.
Steve's right. That's probably the easier answer. So awesome.
So this event's great, and the last two events we ran up against time. What does it take to get another event on the calendar? I'm not asking you to run it, Isabella, but does anybody from the steering Jupyter heads of state know what we need to do?
And if you want me to stop recording, let me know. I don't know what it is going right now.
Yeah, probably we should stop now.
Okay, well then, final thank you for all the discussion.
The recording,
I'll stay
not
here.
the discussion.
I know, but I'm wrapping it up so that the recording ends cleanly. Thank you. I appreciate it. Now I have to figure out how to stop recording. But yes, thank you so much.